Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Lombardi's Legends podcast. I'm Wags. Joining me as always is Dane. Recording here on a Wednesday afternoon, not our normal time here, but Dane and I are both off work today, and it's a short week. Games tomorrow, Thanksgiving evening. So we thought we'd jump on, do a quick preview, and just take a look at this one. So Dane, how are you doing here on a Wednesday afternoon, headed into the Thanksgiving weekend?
Man, I'm so good, Wags. How are you doing? It's great to see you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Super grateful for you all, as always. And man, what a game. I had a chance to actually physically be at the game this past Sunday, and now it's a short turnaround, but boy, it was great to get the 49ers off our shoulders a little bit, and just an awesome atmosphere as always at Lambeau Field. And I mean, what more can you say? The team played out, they balled, they were in control that entire game, and now they have to turn it around. And, you know, it is short notice to turn around and play at Lambeau again, but it's a big week. It's going to be negative temperatures at Lambeau, or under freezing, I should say. And it's going to be exciting. So how are you doing, buddy? Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Yeah, I'm doing great. To be able to beat the 49ers anytime, I don't care. You can talk all you want about injuries. Packers have had some injuries, been pretty, fortunate with health overall, I think, so far this year. But look, I mean, they just steamrolled a 49ers team that has given the Packers a lot of trouble over the years. And it wasn't the finest game through the air, but Josh Jacobs and his offensive line just took control of the trenches. And that's super impressive, Dane. And that's a good sign of that has been somewhat of the identity, but the 49ers are a team that's built to stop that and have in the past. And they had no answer for this rushing attack of Green Bay. And we were able to turn them over a couple of times, and certainly we saw the results. So very exciting to see. And Dane, we don't get opportunities to be in person at Lambeau all the time. Right? We're not based in Green Bay, folks. So, just a little bit more about what the environment was like, Dane, and your annual pilgrimage to Lambeau. How was everything up there?
It was awesome. We had a chance to run into some listeners and pass off some Lombardi's Legends koozies. So Mikey, it was awesome meeting you, and Helen and Stuart and Rooster. Y'all were just so cool. Seeing everybody in person. And I mean, the atmosphere was great. I love Lambeau Field, Wags, because even just walking around the stadium, just walk past Dorsey Levens, Packer Hall of Famer, Packer great, was just walking by. It's like, hey, Dorsey, good to see you, bud. So that's what it's all about. It's a huge event every Sunday when the Packers are playing, but also it is that small town feel. The beer was flowing, and just people were just having a great time. So Wags, it was an awesome experience. You could also feel the energy in the stadium. I'll tell you what, it was truly electric. And as that game wore on, you could tell that the Packers defense was really starting to assert themselves. Even, it's just different. You're in the stadium, watching from a vantage point on the sidelines, watching the players react, watching how engaged they were. I mean, I don't think Rashawn Gary sat down that entire game. Like, dude was just on the sidelines watching the offense, just chirping. Seeing the Malik Heath touchdown and how excited all of his teammates were for him after that late touchdown. It's the little things that, I don't know how much was covered on TV, but seeing it in person was really cool. And you can definitely tell that this is a tight unit. So now, this is the time where we need to turn it up. When the temperatures go down, the Packers need to crank it up, because we're not trying to play for the regular season. We're trying to play for playoffs and Super Bowls here in Green Bay. And I really think that was a really great starting point for the Packers. But now we need to keep it going on Thursday.
Absolutely. So Dane, let's just go ahead and dive right into it then. Game tomorrow night. And certainly we've got a short turnaround, as you said at the top. it looks like one of the key things we'll be looking at is I don't expect Jair Alexander. I don't expect Romeo Dobbs to be playing tomorrow. But outside of that, let's just dive into what is some of the key things you're going to be looking for. Let's do a kind of condensed preview. I know certainly the Dolphins have a history of not really playing well in prime time in weather conditions, cold weather. You mentioned it's going to be below freezing. I don't think we could necessarily count on that to carry us. However, certainly I think if we can extend what we did against the 49ers, starting with the rushing attack, that has to bode well. But there is the Dolphins, despite the record, I think are a formidable foe, and they're getting healthy at the right time as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be about limiting opportunities for Tua, right? And he's somebody that you mentioned. He has had some difficulties in colder weather, but this offense of the Dolphins is electric, and they're starting to click. They've won 3 straight. Running game is good. They've got a number of running backs that can really get you on the ground. And Wags, Tua, he's really good at kind of these intermediate throws, get the ball out of his hands quickly. That's not always the Packers' forte over the years, stopping that kind of that kind of attack against opposing offenses. So really, it's going to be critical of these linebackers, I think, to be able to muddy up the water in some of those intermediate throws, get their hands up, and play really good games. I thought Quay Walker potentially played the best game of his entire career last week. He was all over the field. Even just seeing it in person, like, he looked like a different player than he has at all this year. And frankly, even from the previous years, he looked instinctive. He looked aggressive. He looked confident. That's the Quay Walker that we're going to need. Obviously, the injury to Cooper.
And I'm just going to jump in.
Yeah,
sorry,
please.
didn't mean to interrupt on Quay. Despite, he should have come away with an interception, but I had that in my notes as well, Dane. He was all over the field, not just in person, but on the TV screen. That was certainly a different looking player than we've seen all season. So a great call out. And yeah, I mean, you were talking about Edgerrin Cooper. I don't know if you feel like he's slated to be able to go on a short week, but
I don't think he is. And that's the concern is I don't know about him. I know McDuffie's banged up. So it's going to be a thin linebacker group, I think, for the Packers. So all the more pressure almost on Quay Walker to have a really good performance. And Wags, I'm just going to throw it out there. Wouldn't be surprised to see Javon Bullard moving up into the box a little bit more, and the Packers utilizing him in some of those almost like a quasi linebacker role this week to try to be a little bit more athletic in there, especially shorthanded against some of these more intermediate throws. He seems like a logical fit. He's an aggressive player. He's got a big body for a safety, / nickel. He can kind of pop in there. So that's something that I'm circling right away. But what sticks out to you, Wags, from this Dolphins offensive attack?
I mean, just the speed on all the edges and in the backfield. I mean, certainly we know about Tyreek Hill. He's been having kind of a tough season. He's been battling some injuries, off-field issues early in the season. Doesn't really seem to be carrying over to his play on the field, but who knows? I think it had more to do with the injury to Tua, that he missed a bunch of games early this season. This Dolphins offense looks much, much different with Tua under center than it did with anyone else that was out there when he was out. Jalen Waddle has a great straight line speed coming off his best game of the season last week. I believe he had 144 yards receiving. Juju Smith-Schuster is just, I mean, he's had talent, been around the league. He's not, a new player in this league anymore, but certainly is just taking it to another level the last month. I'm sorry, not Juju Smith-Schuster. I apologize. Yeah. I'm thinking of the receiver.
Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu Smith. Yeah. I got the J and the S, right? Thank you. But he's been like just playing a top-notch football. He's become a real problem in this Dolphins offense. And then, of course, Devon Achane at running back. He's just having a monster year, and he's been up and down a little bit as the yards on the ground are concerned. They've got some guys coming in now. Raheem Mostert is kind of getting relegated to a third running back role now, but pretty balanced in terms of the actual carries. They've got 2-3 guys in that backfield, but a Kane can just kill you as a receiving threat out of the backfield as well. So that puts so much stress both vertically and horizontally and across the middle. So the Packers are going to have to be playing at a high level defensively in order to slow down this Dolphins attack. And certainly I think it starts up front as always. And are they able to get Tua off his rhythm and off his balance? Dan, I do want to mention one thing too. This is a Dolphins team that they really love some of those horizontal screen passes. And there's some tape now last couple of weeks with the Bears, what they did with some of those passes, the short passes off to the side, getting blockers out in front and having some success with that. 49ers, didn't really do much offensively, but that's clearly what they were trying to do, is that short intermediate pass game, which makes sense with Brandon Allen under center. But also I think that's where they felt like they could exploit some of the mismatches on this Packer defense. They, I think, stepped up and were able to, for the most part, shut that down against the 49ers. So it'll be incumbent on this defense to be able to deliver again and be able to eliminate or reduce the impact of some of those short intermediate pass games as well.
That's good. That's really good insight, Wags. Defensively, Miami Dolphins. What do you think that they do that could be problematic? I mean, I'm really high, obviously, on what Josh Jacobs has been able to do. I thought last week was really good balance by the offense across the board. Jordan Love, Wags, maybe the stats don't jump out at you, but I thought he played pretty in control. There was obviously a couple throws you wish you had back, but overall, I thought played a pretty good performance for the Packers again. But, how do the Packers approach the Miami Dolphins this week, especially in short notice Jacobs got a ton of carries last week. So does that limit him? I mean, those are kind of the question marks that are out there for me.
Yeah, it's a great question. It is a short turnaround. I don't think Josh Jacobs has shown anything to make us question whether he's going to be able to carry the load as far as getting his carries and his touches in. This Dolphins team is really predicated on attacking turnover. They're kind of that bend but don't break style. And they're not a top of the line unit across the board. But they're kind of middle of the back. 4.3 yards per carry as against the rush. They've been a little bit more susceptible against the pass. They certainly have some talent in the back end of their secondary that can be disruptive and cause some problems. So I think it's going to be we're going to keep talking about this, Dane. I think Jordan's shown some steps the last couple of weeks, but still had a few too many throws for my liking that were very interceptable last week. And pretty fortunate, honestly, that the 49ers didn't come away with at least one, if not two of those. It's going to be, I think, interesting to see if they're able to attack over the top of the 49ers defense, or I'm sorry, the Dolphins. I'm still on 49ers.
Short week, buddy. It's okay.
Yeah, short week. I got to get it dialed in. Sorry. But I think Josh Jacobs, we might see a few more carries from Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks this week, but they haven't, gotten a game yet where either of them have gotten 10 plus carries in a secondary role. So even though it is a short turnaround, I don't expect that to happen this week. I think Josh Jacobs is going to get the lion's share of the work, and hopefully we get more of that play action and vertical pass game going this week as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I'm looking at their roster right now. There's a couple of guys that obviously, like the Jalen Ramseys of the world, a little bit older now, but can still get his hands on the ball. Jordan Poyer. Right. There's guys, right, that can maybe do some stuff. I will circle that Kendall Fuller is listed now as out, and Anthony Walker Jr. is out. So it's two starters for them. Linebacker, who's got a ton of tackles this year, and then Kendall Fuller, their starting left corner, are out. So yes, Romeo Doubs is out for the Packers. But Wags, just to put it bluntly, these are the kinds of games the Packers need to win. They need to be able to just go out and win the game. So, throw everything else out. What we don't need is a letdown game. There's no excuses in this league. There's no excuses for the 49ers last week. There wouldn't have been excuses when Jordan Love was down earlier in this year if the Packers would have lost. That's just unfortunately how the game goes sometimes. And this week, I don't care if it's short. I don't care what it is. The Packers should be the better football team this week. I expect, they're both coming in on a short week. I do expect it to be slightly sloppier. I think that there's going to be guys that are playing on, a little bit more tired legs. I think it's going to be with the field conditions and short week. It's not just a short week for the players. It's also a short week for the field. At Lambeau, It's a grass field. So, these are real things that we need to address. But at the same time, the Packers are the better team. Point blank. And I think that they match up well, I think, against this Miami defense that you're right. They're average, just maybe slightly above average at times. But I think that the Packers are above average offensively, and they're bordering on the possibility of doing some really great things. They're getting there. So this is a week, Wags, where I expect yes, it's going to be cold, but I do expect a vertical attack. I expect, even maybe a Jaden Reed closer to the line of scrimmage, getting the ball in his hands a little bit to, kind of mimic a run game a little bit to take a little bit of the load off Josh Jacobs. But I think this is a week where Matt LaFleur should be creative. And I think this is a week where the Packers should just go out and win the ball game. I love our offensive line, by the way, against the Miami Dolphins defensive line. So I think that that's something where we could really match up well, is just getting hats on heads from our front five against Miami's front seven. It's a massive mismatch as far as I'm concerned. And I do think that the Packers have a real opportunity to just out physical the Miami Dolphins in the second half.
Yeah, I frankly, the way this offensive line is playing, I like the matchup against pretty much anyone at this point. But Dolphins are in the lower, third of the league in terms of sacks and quarterback pressures as well. So if they're able to continue to protect Jordan, I know they gave up a couple of sacks, but really wasn't pressured that much. I think things just broke down a couple of times last week. But if they're able to continue to protect him at the level they have been, that's a matchup that definitely favors Packers. And I certainly think that Jordan has shown that he's a little bit more comfortable and patient, if nothing else, the last couple of weeks. So I think that bye week did him well, not only from a health standpoint, but from a mental reset standpoint. And maybe this is the game that, it's all of a sudden, okay, we're hitting the gas to the floor and hitting that stretch run here for the remainder of the season. Dane, let's just dive right into X Factors.
Wait, can I ask you one thing? Because of the Thanksgiving theme, I have to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, I know what you're doing here.
What is the one thing about this Green Bay Packers team through 12 weeks that you are most grateful for?
Oh, man. Honestly, I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs. I think he's been a stellar addition, not only to the offense, but to this franchise. And I think he's got his best football in front of him on the offensive side. And I'm going to name my defensive guy, Xavier McKinney. Those signings in tandem, what they've been able to do and the level of play they've been delivering this year is nothing short of spectacular. So, don't take it for granted. Like, these guys, sometimes things are fleeting, but they're playing at a high level right now, and certainly making Goody look really good for going out and adding them. And so those are my two picks. Dane, what's your answer? I guess it doesn't have to be a player. It can be anything. What is your answer for what you're most thankful for?
You mentioned Goody, and I think it's his willingness to admit mistakes, for a lack of a better term, and always try to make the roster better. The quarterback position in camp was a problem. Neither of the guys really were the guy that looked like they should be QB2 behind Jordan Love. And, he went out and got Malik Willis, who ended up winning a couple ball games and coming in a third game and playing good. The kicker position has been atrocious for the last year plus, and that's through no try hard from this Packers organization. They went through 9, 10, 11 kickers between camp and preseason and all the stuff that they did. And they brought in McManus. I was standing next to a guy at the game on Sunday. Every time McManus swung the leg, he went, "We've got a kicker." And it's like, yeah, we might have a kicker now, right? So I think it's Goody's willingness to churn the roster as needed. And it's not just unique to right now. You mentioned a couple of the free agent signings, Jacobs and McKinney. Where would this team be right now without those two massive signings? They are the identity in a lot of senses on the offensive and defensive sides, right? So this is a GM that's aggressive. This is a GM that's always trying to get better. Sometimes it's the under the radar at the time Raul Douglas signing, right? That ends up being a big time player. But throughout the course of Goody's tenure, you can say what you will, but he's always trying to make this roster better. So I'm very grateful for that.
All right, buddy. Let's get into those X factors then. In the spirit of Thanksgiving evening, for years, we've had bowling outings with our group of friends, and I'm not a good bowler, but one of my good buddies always wants to bet against me and swears that he's a much better bowler than he probably is, but he can't rise to the occasion. I can't take the pressure. So Wags has always represented, and it's been double or nothing year after year when we faced these bowling bets, because he just can't take the fact that I'm taking his money. And I'm sorry to say, it's out there. It's out there on the air for all to know now. I'm doubling down on my X Factor pick, Dontavian Wicks from last week. He had a nice catch last week. Hopefully get some off the schneid. I think he's going to hit some more opportunities with Dobbs out this week. And this is a guy that has been very quiet this year. And I think this could be the week that he gets a lot of opportunities. I'm not going to mention another guy that I had on my radar as another X Factor pick, because that might be yours. So I don't want to steal it from you, but I'm going to go double or nothing. And I've got Dontavian Wicks again as my X Factor on the offensive side this week.
Great pick, Wags. Awesome pick. And it's true. I can vouch, Wags, that you have won against a certain somebody in bowling many years in a row. So it is accurate. And we'll make sure we clip this and get to this to a certain somebody. Wags, I'm going to go with same position group. I'm going to go with Bo Melton this week. I think that Bo Melton, was that who you had?
Yeah.
His snap count went up really high this past week. He played 20 plus snaps at the wide receiver position. And with Romeo Dobbs out this week, the Packers are going to be looking to fill that role. And I think they're going to throw Willie Keith in there. I think Bo Melton's going to get his looks, but I just think that Bo Melton is the guy this week, Wags. I love the Dontavian Wicks pick. Any week it could be anybody, but it feels like Bo Melton is due. He had a couple big weeks last year. He's a big play receiver. He's a guy that can just stretch the field. And this might be the week, Wags, where Bo just gets his hands on one and takes it to the house.
I love it. You basically made the exact argument I was going to make for Bo Melton, but I decided to do the double or nothing. So I'm glad you got Bo on there as an offensive X Factor, because I think that's a great selection. Defensive side of the ball, I'll let you go first on this one.
It's going to be Rashawn Gary, Wags, and I'll tell you why. He's heating up. He's somebody that is I think starting to beat blocks. He's somebody that looks more comfortable playing on the other side of the line, as opposed to where he'd been playing most of the year. So over on the right side now. And this is a week where Tua is going to be getting that ball out of his hands quickly, as we mentioned. And this is a week where we're just going to need to get our hands up. We're going to need to get in his face and maybe make one or two critical plays in big moments. Rashawn Gary has a history of wrecking games. Last year, he wrecked a game against the Detroit Lions around this time of year. And I think this is
on Thanksgiving last year. Yeah.
There we go. Yes. So this, you know what? Why not? I'm going to double down then on Rashawn Gary and say, he's going to wreck the game this week, and he's an X factor, but he's also somebody I think is just, he's going to have a big week.
Yeah, Dane, I can attest that doubling down is a winning strategy. So my guy, I'm going to go with Kayshawn Nixon, poked the ball out last week. He said he was starving to make a big play. I think he makes another big play this week, whether it's special teams in a return or on the defensive side. And I'll tell you what, we're going to need a big performance from our entire secondary, but I think K9 is a big key this week. Certainly when you look at the matchups and what the Dolphins are going to try to do to stretch this defense, we need a big performance from him. So I'm going to put K9, Kayshawn Nixon as my defensive X factor on Thanksgiving evening.
Great selection. And Wags, who you got? Let's just throw your score prediction at us.
Man, I think, you know what? I love the fact that we've got a stretch of primetime games coming up. First one is on a short week coming off of a home game. It's at home again. I think that sets up to kind of get in the rhythm of this schedule. So I think this could be a little bit of a slower start, but I think the Packers are going to have a similar gas to the floor approach. I think this Dolphins team is again better than their record based on the health of what they've got. But I think this offense, this is a week where we put up another big number in terms of points. I've got the Packers 35 and the Dolphins 27. They take care of business. I think the Dolphins score late. I think they pull away the Packers and get a couple, maybe 2-3 scores ahead at some point in the second half. Dolphins score a touchdown or two late to make it a little bit closer. But I think this Packer team comes back on this short week and takes care of business against a Dolphins team that has to travel on a short week and play in the cold weather. I just don't think that's a combination of things that bodes well for them in this matchup.
That's a great selection. And we've got a couple of folks in the chat. Lee says, "Hey fellas, it's cold. Do you think passing game is affected on both sides? Last year, I think we only had one cold game like this." And then Wayne, right after, said, Miami's 0-7 in the colder weather, and they'll be 0-8 in the colder weather conditions. I like that optimism. And Wayne says 38-17 Packers. Wayne and I are very close on the score prediction. Lee, to answer your question, I don't think it's going to impact the Packers all that much through the air. Yes, we've had some drop issues. Yes, there's I don't think it matters. I think there's going to be some breakdowns by Miami. I think that this is a week where they're going to have to travel up to Green Bay. It's no fun stepping off the plane from that sunny Miami weather and coming into this cold. I think this is a Packers team that's playing with very real confidence right now. And this is a quarterback that sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, isn't afraid to let it rip. He's going to let it rip this week. And I'm very close to Wayne's prediction. I am 37-16. Packers are going to win this game. I think we put up a lot of points this week. And that goes to my Bo Melton prediction of taking one deep. I think that Dontayvion Wick's going to have a big game. I think this is a Packers team that's looking to explode. I also think that we're going to make Tua pay a little bit and get some turnovers and some short fields. So this is a statement game for the Packers. Last week, 49ers were limped into Green Bay. This week, the Packers are going to make a statement game against a team that's won 3 straight. So the Packers are going to win 37-16.
I love it. Dane, I can't remember the last time you have predicted that big of a margin of victory. You've done it before, but normally that's the role reversal. And tell you what, last time I had that big of a margin of victory was the Cardinals game. So if you've got a good instinct and feeling about this one, I really, really, really like that. So folks, thanks so much for joining us on a weekday but holiday evening afternoon. As always, we're going to wrap this up. As always, be legendary and go Pack, go.
Pack, go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack, go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will